Hello, NBA fans. Daily news about the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm a fan of the Lakers show and I hope you'll subscribe to the channel and give it a like. The Lakers are in terrible form, suffering several unexpected losses, and the team is in 7th place in the Western Conference. Changes need to be made and several adjustments, and the Lakers management needs to act quickly and release players to make room to sign new players to improve this roster. Bronnie James has added nothing to the Lakers and it's time to release him. Bronnie James has difficulty making shots and is a below-average defender. The Lakers want to compete for the title, which practically eliminates Bronnie from the rotation. Coach J.J. Redick has been fielding players with two-way contracts instead of him, which says it all to the fans. The Lakers need to release Bronnie James urgently. The Lakers trusted the wrong guard in polarizing decision, and it's hurting them badly. Thinking face fire. The Los Angeles Lakers don't lack star power with LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves running the show. But often, it's the moves not involving star players that ultimately decide how successful a team becomes. For the Lakers, choosing to keep Dalton Knecht on the roster while cutting Jordan Goodwin in the offseason may come back to bite them in a big way. Goodwin played 29 games with the Lakers last season. He averaged just 5.6 points per game but provided energy on the defensive end, disrupting the rhythm of ball handlers and being a pest pretty consistently. He was waived to make room for Marcus Smart, who theoretically filled the same need that Goodwin did. But somehow, Goodwin ended up the most productive out of those three players, and he's the one who the Lakers let walk. Waiving Knecht was probably never in the cards, but the team unsuccessfully tried to trade him last year. And then instead of dealing him in the offseason, they kept him around and cut a guy who was clearly good enough to be a nightly rotation player. That's simply poor roster management. Lakers constructed their bench poorly in 2025-26. The Lakers are 30th in the NBA in bench scoring. That's last, for anyone keeping track. Granted, we all knew the Lakers would get a majority of their production from the starting lineup, and Jordan Goodwin wouldn't cure all of the second-unit woes for this team. Instead, the Suns, who are tied with the Lakers in the Western Conference standings, are reaping the benefits of Goodwin's energy, rebounding, and connective passing ability. So while Goodwin isn't going to win or lose the NBA Finals for the Phoenix Suns, he has been good enough to swing a few games for the Suns. Meanwhile, Dalton Knecht is basically out of the rotation and will likely be traded for underwhelming draft assets sometime in the next 2 weeks. I'm still not fully giving up on Knecht, for the record. He's too talented a shooter not to find a niche in the league. But it won't be in Los Angeles, and the Lakers don't have much room for error in their bench unit. Cutting ties with Goodwin was, simply, an error on the part of Rob Pelinka and the front office. Nitpicking a move this minor might feel trite, but the Suns are a direct competitor of the Lakers, and if things continue to trend this way, the teams could be battling for the final non-play-in spot in the West. Goodwin would have kept the Lakers from the backup guard headache they're currently dealing with. Pelicans want more than the Lakers can offer for Herb Jones. Los Angeles has found itself in dire need of an upgrade on the defensive end of the floor. It ranks number 26 in the NBA in defensive rating and has now found itself on the wrong side of even in net rating at -0.9 after 37 games played. Tim McMahon says the quiet part out loud about the Lakers' trade deadline plans. There's no big splash coming. Los Angeles Lakers president of basketball operations Rob Pelinka knows the importance of frugality between now and the February 5 trade deadline. It's not that the Lakers lack the capacity to make a blockbuster move, it's that waiting until the offseason to do so is the much wiser play. That's when a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade might be attainable for Pelinka. It's also when the Lakers can consider adding a free agent or two on the wing. Norman Powell, Anthony Simons, Kevin Huerter, and Luke Kennard are all potential fits. Once the season ends, the Lakers will have to make a decision about LeBron James. Rui Hachimura's contract will also be up, along with that of Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, and Maxi Kleber. Tim McMahon reminded everyone why Lakers aren't about to make a deadline splash. Pelinka will have a lot more flexibility to work with during the offseason, provided he doesn't clog up that flexibility before February 5 by taking on any long-term salary. The best move for the Lakers is to avoid a splash over the next 2 weeks. Lakers fans are well aware of this. So, too, is ESPN's NBA writer Tim McMahon. Appearing on the Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast on Monday, McMahon reiterated that Pelinka's priority is the future, starting with the next transaction cycle at the conclusion of the 2025-26 season. You don't want to take back long-term money before the deadline, because if there's any team that can build with free agency as a primary part of their plan, it's the Los Angeles Lakers, McMahon said. McMahon also reminded viewers that the Lakers and Miami Heat are the two NBA franchises that have had the most success in recent years when it comes to reeling in superstar free agents, see LeBron. Thus, if Lakers fans aren't at peace with the current roster on the floor for JJ Redick, too bad. This is the roster Redick will be rolling with for the rest of the campaign, with the exception of possibly some minor tweaks in the form of minimum contract guys. That's nothing to be depressed about, by the way. This is a team with 3 all-star caliber players in its starting lineup, not to mention one of the 5 best players on earth in Luka Doncic. Redick's task is to do a better job maximizing this roster than he's done over the first half of the season. The Lakers' 25-16 record is better than their play has deserved, although a 13-1 record in clutch games might be a harbinger of an effective playoff team. LA's defense screams otherwise. There's work to be done and plenty of massive improvements to be made, but not via trade. As such, it's hardly surprising that the Lakers would express interest in a 2024 All-Defensive First-Team honoree who's 27 years of age. The truth that's too often overlooked, however, is that constructing a trade means landing on mutually beneficial terms. For the Pelicans, losing Jones would mean parting with their best perimeter defender as he's just now entering his prime. As such, it should come as no surprise that New Orleans is setting a high asking price for a player it would undoubtedly benefit from keeping on its roster. It must also be noted that Los Angeles isn't the only team that's likely to reach out about Jones. Any franchise hoping to add a top-tier 3-and-D player is at least weighing the pros and cons of making an offer for him, thus driving the asking price up even further as competition yields greater offers for the Pelicans to consider. That ultimately results in the current situation, with the Lakers unable to compete with rival executives in meeting the asking price the Pelicans have reportedly set. Brewing Lakers rumor could vindicate Blazers' decision to dump DeAndre Ayton. We're only halfway through the 2025-26 season, yet it's already become clear that the Los Angeles Lakers view center DeAndre Ayton as a stopgap option rather than a long-term solution. NBA insider Jake Fisher discussed via a Bleacher Report livestream that the Lakers are still expected to look for frontcourt upgrades because they don't have their center of the future. The fact that the Lakers, a team desperate for frontcourt help, are already viewing Ayton as not being the answer should make the Portland Trail Blazers feel that much better about their decision to buy him out this past summer. Lakers' lack of interest in DeAndre Ayton validates Blazers' decision to move on. The Phoenix Suns realized Ayton wasn't their long-term answer when they shipped him to Portland as part of the 3-team blockbuster Damian Lillard deal. That ultimately worked out in Portland's favor as they were able to add building block to Monty Kamara in the process. But in a sense, the Blazers got lucky as they were hoping Ayton would benefit from a change of scenery and be the focal point of that return. That wasn't the case, as the same flaws that ultimately led to Phoenix moving on were apparent in Portland. The former number 1 overall pick was undeniably talented, but showed multiple red flags throughout his 2 seasons with the Blazers. Ayton's lack of on-court awareness prevented him from making a significant impact as he was constantly in the wrong spot. That was most apparent on the defensive end, as Portland's lack of a true defensive anchor prevented them from bringing general manager Joe Cronin's vision to fruition. Buying out Ayton is proving to be a savvy move, as not only did Portland get him to forfeit $10 million of his salary for this season, but it also cleared the starting path for Donovan Clingan, who has been absolutely thriving in that role. Still, the most frustrating aspect of the DeAndre Ayton experience and why Portland ultimately had to move on was that he let external circumstances dictate his on-court actions far too easily and too frequently. If his team wasn't winning, we'd see a different version of Ayton. If he wasn't getting the ball, we'd see a different version of Ayton. Even Lakers head coach J.J. Redick recently pointed this out, saying he thought Ayton was frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball enough on offense. A team's ceiling is significantly limited if it needs to force-feed Ayton the ball in order for him to be engaged and make a two-way impact. There are only a handful of centers in the modern NBA who deserve that amount of touches, and Ayton is not even close to being on that list. The Lakers have one of the worst frontcourt rotations in the entire association. It was an issue that was exposed last postseason against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it remains a fatal flaw despite bringing in Ayton. They've already realized this halfway through the season, and the fact that this is now the third team that wants to move on from Ayton proves that it was an Ayton problem all along, not a Blazers problem.